Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Wow, goodbye, Brett Brown. The Philadelphia 76ers fire their head coach of the last 7 seasons, and I'm sure that there are plenty of people banging on their chest, singing, dancing, screaming hallelujah in the middle of the streets, doing whatever it is that gets them excited. But I'm here to say, slow it down a bit. Let's slow the roll a bit. While I agree it was the right move, they needed to do this. Change was definitely needed. A new voice needed to be implemented. There are so many problems with this organization. Ding, ding, ding. It starts at the top. David Blitzer, Joshua Harris, this ownership group, they have so many flaws. They are a problem. I don't trust that they're going to be able to make the right adjustments, hire the right people. In what world? There is a power struggle when it comes to the top of this franchise. And how am I supposed to sit here today and go, you know what? They are going to nail this. They are going to knock this out of the park. They understand what they're doing. Hell no! Hell no! I'm scared. I'm concerned. I'm so worried that they're going to screw this thing up even more. Somehow, some way, there are still Colangelo people involved in the front office. How does that happen? How is this the scenario we are in at this very moment? It should never happen. They need a real president of basketball operations. But that's not the way this is going to go. I don't trust that they're going to hire the right head coach. I don't trust anything that they do. I am pissed off, I'm angry, and I'm scared because they only care about money. And look, owners are supposed to care about money. That's why they are so successful. But there's two kinds of ownership groups and owners. The kind that care about winning and money, and the kind that care about money. And this group, it's all about the Benjamins. You know why they want Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to stay here? Because they sell tickets. Because people buy their jerseys. Because people are willing to sacrifice their time to spend money to watch the product on the field. It's not about actually winning a championship to these individuals, and that's where I have the big time problem. Along with the roster's not constructed right, and I'm sure people instantly want to start screaming and firing off at Elton Brand, and I just want to say one thing about those moves. Now that I've been involved in covering sports for a little bit of time now, I've met people in the business who have been covering teams for a long period of time. And the stories that they tell me about different organizations, not the 76ers specifically, but different organizations in the 4 major sports, there is so much that happens behind the scenes that the fans don't know about that blows my mind. When they tell me information, I seriously think to myself, wow, if people only really knew what was happening. So I'm not claiming that it's 100% definitely happening with the 76ers too, because I don't have confirmed sources, but based off of what I know about other organizations, there's no doubt in my mind that it's happening here too, and it's seriously something that questions the future of what is even going to happen now. The reason I bring that up, Elton Brand is the GM. Those contracts will fall on him. But do we know that he had the final say and he put his foot down and said, I'm signing these players. I'm signing them to this much money. When it comes to the whole Brett Brown and Jimmy Butler thing, while I know a lot of reports are coming out and there's all this nonsense being reported on Brett where it seems like someone's just sticking a work boot on his throat and really nailing him down when things are really bad for the guy, right? I mean, he just got canned and all these stories are popping up. It's almost as if someone waited for him to be in a down position and they just wanted to kick him down when things were really sour. I don't believe them all because the way that this organization functions, there's people who are above Elton Brand and Brett Brown who have a ton of say, and they are just as much the issue as anybody else. We don't know if Elton Brand was the firm ender of those contracts. I'm sure that there are people upstairs who demanded that to happen, and because Elton Brand is in the position that he's in, he gets all the blame. He gets all the criticism. Now, he could be the one. I just know that I'm telling you, this thing is whacked. This thing is screwed. And I don't trust a damn word that anybody says right now. So let's talk about some of these coaches and the team and some of the other interesting conversations that come with Brett Brown being fired. But before we do, this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. And with over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So make sure you check out their information. It's all in the description. So a couple names. Ty Lue, Kenny Atkinson, Jay Wright. Maybe they go with the way of an assistant coach. You saw what happened with the Toronto Raptors. Who's Nick Nurse before that run happened? Nobody knew anything about Nick Nurse, yet he went on this great run, and he's continuing the success with the team that doesn't have Kawhi Leonard. So I'm okay with going with a guy who isn't a big-time splash because that doesn't mean that they are some terrible coach. Let's look at all of the coaches that were with the Philadelphia 76ers who were assistants and are now elsewhere. Phoenix, Monty Williams, and Lloyd Pierce. So hiring an assistant coach should not be out of the question. I want to hit on one guy, though, Mark Jackson. This fascination with Mark Jackson cracks me up. Mark Jackson's 3 years, 23 wins, 47 wins, 51 wins. Now, Brett Brown's 3 years, once things really picked up and it was no longer the actual process where they were trying to lose 10 games, 26 wins, 52 wins, 51 wins. I don't get it. Am I missing something? For the people who hate Brett Brown, despise him, thinks he's the worst coach in the world, and they want Mark Jackson hired, I'm spitting numbers at you. I don't see the correlation here. I don't see how Mark Jackson is some insane coach that happens to be still on a broadcast team because nobody wants to hire him, but he would be the perfect fit here in Philly. There's stories about how much hundreds of people in that organization could not stand Mark Jackson because he was not a good person to them at all. Yet he would be a great fit here. I don't see it. Now, Ty Lue, the step over with Allen Iverson, of course, comes to my mind, and I'm picturing Ty Lue walking in the tunnel at the Wells Fargo Center, looking to the left as he enters the building, and there's a huge picture or a huge canvas of him getting stepped over by Allen Iverson in the playoffs. That would be absolutely hilarious. It's tough to tell what Ty Lue really is because, well, he won when he had LeBron James, and you know me, I'm all about talent wins you games, so I don't know. I'm not going to insanely bash whoever they hire instantly. I will give them the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't have much confidence that they are going to nail all of their moves as a franchise. I will give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I won't be screaming and cursing and freaking out with any hire. I will give them a chance to see what they are capable of doing with this roster. Well, I guess that's a perfect segue. Will this roster work with anyone? All these coaches claim, well, if I had this guy, I'll be able to make it work. You see that with first-round picks all the time. You see that with Markelle Fultz right now. All these coaches, when they see a past number one overall pick, oh, I can make him work. Oh, I can figure out what was wrong with his game. Well, with this roster, I'm sure there's 1,000 coaches out there watching the team play going, oh, I can figure this out. Yeah, I can make sure that they find structure and they find flow. No. Stop it. There's a problem, and there needs to be a major change. And I'm at the point now where we talk about, hey, you got to get rid of one of these contracts. I don't even think getting rid of Tobias really helps out that much. It obviously opens up a lot of space, and he's not that great of a player. So when you look at how much cap he's taking up for the production, I get it's valuable from that standpoint. But then you're stuck with Al Horford's contract when Joel Embiid and him don't work together. It's at the point where I think Al Horford's contract should be the only one in play. Get rid of Al Horford. I know Tobias has been clearly very underwhelming, but at least he fits as a power forward. He can at least play next to Joel Embiid. Al Horford can't even play with Joel Embiid, and then everything's really screwed up. I think the only realistic move that makes sense at this point is getting rid of Al Horford and staying with Tobias. Now, if you can unload both, hallelujah, but I don't think that that's a reality. So I feel as if the play is getting rid of Al Horford and staying with Tobias Harris because he can naturally at least play the power forward position next to Embiid, and you don't have to worry about, well, when can Al Horford play? Oh, only when Joel Embiid's on the bench, and it's a nightmare there when it comes to the roster. There's going to have to be so many moves that are made. I'd get rid of Josh Richardson, too. I think he's just a guy, and his comments after the series was over saying, we need more accountability. While I don't think he's wrong, here's what bothers me about that. Hold yourself accountable. Hold yourself accountable. You are a pro athlete. Now, part of a coach's job is to make sure the team is prepared, that if they do things wrong, that there is some sort of rules in place where, hey, if you continue to keep making the same mistakes, I will make sure that you understand you can't continue to go down that road. I'm not saying that Brett Brown had no issues in that area, because he clearly did. I think both can be true. I think there can be a problem with the accountability with Brett Brown, but I also can't stand that here's a professional basketball player saying, hey, hold us more accountable. We need to be more accountable. Excuse me, hold yourself accountable. You are at the professional level. You're a grown man. If you believe that you need to be held more accountable, do it yourself. Make sure you're up to your standard. Make sure the team is up to your standard. You're capable of doing that. I'm not giving Brett Brown a free pass. That is a knock on what he is as a coach. He's very, very player-friendly, a little too much. I acknowledge that. But I can't stand a player wanting to be held accountable more. Do it yourself. That's the way I see it. I don't want any players out there on my team that aren't willing to do it themselves. Do it yourself. This is the NBA. This is how it is. Let's look at Doc Rivers and the LA Clippers as an example. The coach there is definitely an above average coach in this league. Someone put him in the great coach category. Paul George has sucked. The Clippers are 2-2. But Doc Rivers is a great coach. You are only as good as a coach as your players are. When you're a coach, you're only as good as your players are. Paul George has been embarrassing. Should Doc Rivers sit him? Should Doc Rivers hold him accountable? I mean, it's on Paul George to step the hell up and perform in the postseason. And the reason I bring this up is, there's a lot of people, we got to hire this great elite coach. There's not many out there. There's only a very small handful. And even those very small handful only succeed when they have legit insane talent on their team playing at their highest capability. Pop, Spoelstra, Doc Rivers, these are the names that people throw out, right? And I'm sure that the people listening now will think of other names too. And then let's think of the roster, and let's think of those stacked players on those teams. Let's think about those players who are playing at an elite level right now. Those coaches aren't elite. They just have a great roster. There's very few. The reason I bring that up is there's no guy walking through the door that's just changing this entire team and bringing them on some insane journey. If there was a better coach than Brett Brown out there who was coaching this past team, maybe they win 2 games. So they lose 4-2 instead of 4-0. The problem comes all the way up top, from the power struggle to the contracts, to the roster, to the players, to the coach. And that is where that this team is very flawed at the moment. So I know people are pumped up. I know people are screaming for joy, but I'm sorry to break the news to you. You have a long way until this thing is properly figured out, because there needs to be an insane overhaul, a big-time difference maker that comes into this organization who knows what the hell he's doing. And I don't think the ownership group is willing to actually hire that individual, because they may lose their power, and that's something that they don't want to do. Now, ultimately, they will never lose their power. We get that. They are the owners. But a real legit great front office member would demand having all of the power to make sure they can make the proper adjustments and get the right hires involved. And I don't know if they are willing to allow someone to step in and have the keys. And good organizations have that option available to them. Sadly, this organization has been through a legitimate nightmare. So the whole Jay Wright thing, getting back to some coaches, the fascination with him is just an emotional tie because he's from around here. He wins a national championship. Who's to say that he's going to work here? And he's not leaving Villanova. He built this brand. He's not just a coach at Duke, where Duke was a powerhouse and he just slid in and he's another coach involved. He built that program. They're national championship teams all the time because of what he built. The NBA and college basketball, they don't compare. There's no reason to leave a situation that he's at right now in college basketball. It would make no sense whatsoever. I don't know what road they're going to go down, but I do know this. I want Ben Simmons with the ball in his hands again. I want Ben Simmons to be the primary point guard. I want Ben Simmons to be controlling this basketball team and being the one to make the plays, to setting up the offense, doing what he does best. We just witnessed this squad shoot so poorly in the postseason. They're not a three-point shooting team, right? We scream about it all the time. This team sucks at shooting the three in a league where shooting the three is the most dominant thing that you can do. Yet Ben Simmons, as a point guard, was at the top of the league in assists that led to three-pointers. Let that sink in. We saw him play the power forward, and there was outrage, and there was some people pumped up about it. There were some who were upset, and there were some that were pumped. I told you he wasn't a point guard, some would say. Stop it. The point forward thing, that looked miserable. The guy thrives when the basketball is in his hands and he is willing to make the plays for his teammates. He needs to have the ball in his hands, and I really hope that the next coach allows him to do that. I really hope the next coach really utilizes him in that point guard role, because that is where I see the most success come out of Ben Simmons. That's his best attribute: assists, making his teammates better, getting his teammates open. I think you realize the difference when Ben Simmons is out there facilitating and another point guard is out there facilitating. A lot more opens up because his ability to drive to the rim really makes teams suffocate down low. You need him to have the ball. I'm really interested, though. See, I get that it's frustrating and it's annoying because there's so many things that have to happen. But because there's so many things, and because we're so exhausted and tired from this past season, while I don't think they're going to nail it because I don't trust them, I need something fresh. I need something new. We knew that this wasn't working, so we need something new. And it's not time to give up on Ben or give up on Joel and trade one of these pieces. I'm not going down that road yet. Let me see a new coach. Let me see a couple new pieces around them. To me, it's not so much Joel and Ben that are the issues. It's the supporting cast that doesn't make much sense. But then I go back to who really made these moves. I know Elton Brand is in the GM chair, but is he the one that really made the moves? He could be, but he also might have not have been. There definitely could be people above him setting it in place for him to do it, being told what to do. And when there's franchises who don't properly have things ran the right way, that's normally one of the problems. People are overstepping others and doing their jobs. That's the point of hiring people. Let them do what they are supposed to do. when there's power struggles, it's because, well, they're not hiring the right people, or they're forcing others to do the jobs of people you hired elsewhere. And there's a whole issue when it comes to cohesiveness in the front office. We talk about it all the time. This team has no flow. There's nothing that works on the floor together as one. We haven't seen them do it at all. There was no page that was flipped throughout the season where you go, that's what it's supposed to look like. Well, just like on the court, you're supposed to see togetherness. In upper management, there's supposed to be togetherness as well. And it's pretty damn obvious that's not the case happening in 2020. And I hate to say this, but when the owners are the ones that are the top issue, how is it supposed to change? It's incredible. It really is. The process failed nonsense you're hearing with the national media, who are loving every single moment right now of bashing the Sixers. It didn't fail. The execution afterwards failed. The execution of the GMs after Sam Hinkie failed, specifically Brian Colangelo. But what the process did was it allowed this team to stink, get high draft picks, and they did that, and they continue to do that, where they had backup plans, knowing that they would fail with some of their picks. They got 2 stars in Ben and Joel. They had plenty of cap space. Everything was perfectly there for them to knock this out of the park. They just failed the execution part after, because the league stepped in and forced Sam Hinkie to get out, and the ownership allowed that to happen. They hired Colangelo. All that nonsense occurred. That is where the process went wrong. But the actual idea of the process gave the Sixers all that free cap space, gave them all those draft picks and those players to move around and those assets. It gave them all of it. Ben Simmons, Joel, they just failed the execution part. But to say the idea of the process was miserable and a joke and it doesn't succeed, no, it definitely can succeed. They just didn't go about it the right way. But the idea and the concept of the process obviously was something that worked, because they went from 10 wins to 50 plus, and they're making the playoffs every year, and they have stars to build around. The problem is they lost their ability to build around them the right way, because they signed 2 heavy contracts that obviously is not working out for them. But of course they want to make the process seem like some evil thing and some horrendous thing, because nobody wants to see sports programs go through that, because it goes against what sports are about. So obviously this conversation is not going anywhere. I will keep you updated on all the news that will be occurring. I do have a ton of your phone calls. You reacted to the Brett Brown news on the 24/7 Anytime hotline. The phone number is 856-442-9805. I have a bunch of calls. You can leave yours as well. I'm going to react to your reaction in a podcast in the next day or two, so be on the lookout for that. I also utilize these phone calls on 97.3 ESPN from 2 to 6 p.m. on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill and myself. So you're also going to be heard on the radio, which is pretty cool. So make sure you do that. And real quick, support for Sports Talk with Bros is brought to you by Manscaped, who is best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped, their Lawnmower 3.0 is the greatest thing that I've ever used in my life. Because of their advanced skin-safe technology, you don't have to worry about cutting yourself because of their ceramic blade. Also, they have a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, LED lights so you don't miss anything. If you are listening to me right now, you need to experience this firsthand. Use code BROD at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.